Buried for over 1,400 years, a single mosaic floor has just been uncovered near the Sea of Galilee, etched into its stones. Not just decoration, but a theological proclamation so bold, so direct, it mirrors the very words of Jesus Christ. Not in Rome, not in myth, but in the land where fishermen became apostles and a carpenter changed the world. This isn't just archaeology, this is the living memory of the early church, resurfaced. And the message it carries? That Peter, the fisherman from Bethsaida, was more than just a follower. He was chief among the apostles and holder of the keys to the kingdom of heaven. The implications are enormous for history, for theology, and for your faith. This might be the most significant New Testament era discovery in a generation, and it changes what we thought we knew about the birthplace of the church, Bethsaida. The Gospel mentions it often, but strangely, it vanished. John 1:44 tells us, Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. This town, whose name in Aramaic means house of the fishermen, sat on the northern edge of the Sea of Galilee. It was a hub for fishing and trade, a place of calling where Jesus said, "Follow me," Matthew 4:18-20. A place of miracles, where the blind received sight, Mark 8:22-25, and thousands were fed, Luke 9:10-17. But in Matthew 11:21, Jesus also pronounced judgment, "Woe to you, Bethsaida! For if the miracles performed in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago." And then, the town disappears from history. For nearly 2,000 years, no one knew where it was. Archaeologists debated, tour guides speculated, but the actual location of Bethsaida remained lost until now. In 2016, a team led by Dr. Mordecai Aviam and Dr. Stephen Notley began excavating a site known as El Araj, just off the northern shoreline of the Sea of Galilee. Their mission was bold, to find Bethsaida. What they uncovered stunned the academic world. Roman-era pottery and coins from the 1st century during Jesus' ministry. Foundations of an extensive Byzantine church, likely built in the 5th or 6th century. And most compelling of all, a Greek mosaic inscription that refers to none other than Peter, using language directly tied to Scripture. Let me read it for you. The whole work of paving the diaconicon with mosaic was done by the zeal of Constantine, servant of Christ, for the chief of the apostles and holder of the keys of the heavenly kingdom. Saint Peter, intercede for him and his children. This isn't general. This isn't vague. This is intentional, theological, and grounded in Matthew 16:18-19, where Jesus says to Peter, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven." The wording on the floor aligns with early church belief that Peter held a unique role among the apostles. This wasn't Rome assigning authority after the fact. This was the church in Galilee, on Peter's home turf, honoring him as Christ did. Let's slow down for a moment. Why does this matter to you? To Christians today? 1. It confirms the Gospels in a tangible way. The Bible speaks of Bethsaida as Peter's hometown. Now we have material evidence of that town, complete with a church that honors Peter in the exact terms the Gospels use. This strengthens the geographic and historical reliability of the New Testament. It's one thing to read Scripture, it's another to see stones crying out in confirmation. As Jesus himself said in Luke 19:40, "If they keep quiet, the stones will cry out." This mosaic is one of those stones. 2. It validates early church memory. For centuries, many scholars dismissed pilgrim accounts from the 700s AD, especially the writings of Bishop Willibald, who claimed to have visited a church dedicated to Peter and Andrew near the Sea of Galilee. But now, The layout, architecture, and inscriptions at El Araj match Willibald's description, nearly word for word. This means the Church Fathers and early Christian pilgrims knew exactly where they were going. Their memory was not myth. It was living tradition, and we've just rediscovered it. Third, it elevates Peter's apostolic authority. Some Christian traditions downplay Peter's role, but this church does not. This isn't poetic language. This is precise ecclesial language, calling Peter, chief of the apostles, holder of the keys, intercessor before God. This is consistent with the Catholic and Orthodox understanding of apostolic succession, but it also challenges modern Christians to re-evaluate how the early church understood leadership and authority. The Book of Acts shows Peter preaching at Pentecost, healing the sick, and establishing doctrine, Acts 2-5. And now, this mosaic preserves that reverence in stone. There's another layer to this story, one often missed. Jesus cursed Bethsaida. Yet centuries later, believers returned to build a church in that very place. Why? Because God redeems broken places. He takes towns that once rejected him and makes them sacred again. Just like the cross, once a symbol of death, now a symbol of hope. Bethsaida was transformed from a cursed place into a house of prayer. Maybe your faith has felt buried too, under layers of doubt, pain, or history. This church is a reminder. What God buries, he can resurrect. What man forgets, God remembers. And what seems lost can become sacred again. The early Christians who built this church didn't have drones or satellites. They didn't have archaeology degrees or excavation grants. They had memory, tradition, and faith. They built where they believed God had moved. And now, over 1400 years later, their faith is speaking again. To the skeptic, this is a fascinating artifact. To the believer, it is a reaffirmation of Scripture's truth. So what does this church under the soil really mean? It means the Bible is not just a book of spiritual ideals. It is rooted in place, history, and people. It means that Peter wasn't just a name. He was a man who walked these shores, followed Christ, and was honored for generations after. It means that Jesus' words in Matthew 16:18 still echo today. On this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. The gates of time didn't overcome it either. This church stood buried for 14 centuries, but it was never forgotten. And now that it's been found, the question is, will we remember what it means?